welcome to another edition of Flea Market Fantasy, the world's second greatest Bronze Age era comic book podcast. Joining me as always is new Michael, Kevin Jank.
I'm here and I'm chomping at the bit to hear all the week's worth of research you've done for this episode.
I want to see. This isn't. Jank's ribbing me right here because right before we started recording the show, I said I did no research, and now he's all excited to point it out. But no, but like this book was written by I should say the book we're doing, Marvel Premiere issue 47, 1979. That's what we're doing here, and the reason we picked this is because it is the first appearance of Scott Lang as Ant-Man.
Yeah, that's right, but not of Scott Lang himself.
Yeah, that is correct. We'll get into that in a minute. But, yeah, because there's a big Ant-Man movie out there. Is it out yet?
Yes, actually, the preview screenings would be tonight for,
right. Quantumania.
Now they start at 7. So normally, if this was back in the day, I would be there instead of doing this show right now.
But yeah, you gave up on movies.
Yeah.
Here.
I don't really care so much anymore.
Now, this Ant-Man and the Wasp, this is the third film in the series. And this is the second one with Wasp also in the title. Evangeline Lilly. And this is also the first one where she has a terrible haircut.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like a bad choice.
Now, this movie features Kang, the Conqueror. And,
because when you think Ant-Man, you always think of his rivalry with Kang.
Well,
oh, wait, you definitely don't.
Well, when you think Ant-Man, you don't think of his rivalry with anybody. You know, I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, Darren Cross, but they already did that in the first one, I guess.
What's his rival? A boot? You know, no one cares.
That's fair. They definitely seem to have dropped the first two are kind of heist movies, or at least it's like one was kind of a heist, more of a chase movie. This one, just seems to be like a big CGI mess.
Yeah, the first two movies were small scale.
Yep.
Little stories.
Very low stakes.
And they were very enjoyable. They weren't like Oscar winners or anything, but they were very enjoyable. Now this movie here, I've been looking at the reviews of it. It's getting about, I think it's at like 48% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ooh, I thought it was like 58 yesterday, so it's really like a rock.
And from the reviews I've read a couple. It seems the consensus is everybody, they like Paul Rudd. They like that Jonathan Majors. They say he's awesome as Kang. Everyone likes that guy as Kang. And apparently Michelle Pfeiffer is also very good in this. But they said the special effects are nice, but it's just too big and the story doesn't really do anything. Yeah,
it sounds like one of those movies where they don't really give a shit about this movie. They're just trying to set up for future movies. It's all this is just like an episode in a story, one series or something where it's just like this movie on its own doesn't stand up, but maybe later it'll be better. But you're asking a lot of people at this point. Like the Marvel movies are going down hard lately. How about you just do a good movie? Plus I heard that also like it was a lot more serious, but then since Bob Iger took Disney over again, he had them do a lot of reshoots at the last minute. And guess what? That led to a tonal mess.
Yeah, that was the other thing I heard. That too much wacky comedy. Like everything doesn't have to be funny. One reviewer said.
Yeah.
Do that. Also, everyone seems to be upset about MODOK.
Yeah.
MODOK is also in this, and I saw. I wanted to get a clue why are they mad about MODOK? So I googled up images of MODOK from the movie, and yeah, I see why. They're upset about MODOK.
It looks pretty atrocious, and also I hear it's just a waste of. You could have done something cool with MODOK, but it sounds like he's probably just a flunky or barely a side henchman or something. Where it's like this is pointless. You're wasting a good villain here.
For those who aren't familiar with MODOK, we talked about him on this show. He was in the Submariner issue we did about 2 years ago on the show. You can go through the archives and look for that. But MODOK's basically a big head, with little itty bitty arms and little bitty legs, and like a robotic body, but just a big head floating around. And so they did that, and it looks pretty cool. Like the outside, it looks pretty good. Like the framework of the head looks good. But then his face is just a dude's face, and it looks really weird.
You guys missed the point by a lot.
Could have spiced it up a little bit there. It's just a normal dude's face. It's like, wait, what? It's pretty awful. Anyway, so that's the movie that we're honoring. with this episode. It is a cinematic classic. We have to honor it with Marvel Premiere issue 47 from 1979. Now you mentioned, the creators here are David Michelinie is the writer, and John Byrne is the penciler, and Bob Layton is on the inks.
Oh,
and we talked about Bob Layton last week here on the show. We've done talked about Michelinie and John Byrne endlessly on the show in the previous 3 years. So there's really nothing to research with them, and I refuse to do it because I'm just not going to do it again. Yeah. But I will say this: I really enjoyed seeing John Byrne with Bob Layton's inks.
Yeah,
I thought that was a nice,
damn solid.
Yeah, because you think John Byrne, you think Terry Austin from the old X-Men days. That's what you want. But I thought Layton really added something to it. It looked, this looks good.
Yeah, compared to like John Byrne doing Spider-Man in the late 90s, this was incredible. It definitely could have gone worse.
I really enjoyed that part of it. Also, Scott Lang, the Scott Lang fella, you mentioned earlier, this is his first appearance as Ant-Man, but not as Scott Lang, because in December of 1978, he appeared in Avengers issue 181 as Scott Lang, security technician.
Mm-hmm. Working for the old Tony Stark there.
Yeah, for Tony Stark. And then 1 month later, in January of 1979, he makes his appearance as Ant-Man.
Yeah.
So, how about that?
They really let that one build up. We're going to introduce this character 1 month earlier than he normally would have. Great. You really laid the breadcrumbs there.
You got to plant that seed.
Maybe you make him a recurring character for a couple of months before that? No. Just barely here he is on one page of this book.
Of course, the first Ant-Man was Hank Pym, and he was one of the original Avengers. People always forget that, but he was one of the originals,
Well, he's so tiny that they overlook him.
In the Wasp. So Hank Pym, at this point in the comic book, of course, he's Michael Douglas in the movies. Hank Pym, right?
He's significantly older in that version. They definitely played a lot with the ages on there, because really, Scott Lang, they call it Ant-Man and the Wasp, and he's, dating the Wasp in there, but this Scott Lang Ant-Man really never had any connection with the Wasp. Like, she was she was Hank Pym's lady, and then there was a new Wasp who is kind of, Hank Pym's daughter, but she's like a teenager, so he ain't hooking up with her.
Well, she is going to be at least in the comic books, that's Stature, right? Isn't that her name?
That is his daughter. That's Scott Lang's daughter.
Oh, I thought that you said Hank Pym has a daughter.
Hank Pym has a daughter from his first marriage who became like the new Wasp in recent years.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was confused there. All right.
Yeah.
So, Stature, because she's coming to Marvel Snap soon. That's all I know about her.
I believe she's in this new movie as well, but I hear she's insufferable, so sounds like they ruined that character.
I can't remember. Is Evangeline Lilly, is she Janet Van Dyne? Isn't that the Wasp's real name? Janet?
Mm-hmm.
Is that who she plays, or is she playing like the daughter of Janet Van Dyne?
He's playing Hope Van Dyne.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So Michelle Pfeiffer is Janet Van Dyne.
Yeah. Although I'm not sure why her name is Hope Van Dyne then, when Hank Pym, I believe, is her actual biological father, so why would she have her mother's last name?
Good point. I don't know. Forget it. But anyway, getting back to this Ant-Man character, Hank Pym, the Pym particles, that's what makes him shrink and then grow later on. But at this point in the comic book timeline, Hank Pym is Yellow Jacket.
Yeah. His most problematic era.
Yeah, explain that to the kids who are not familiar with this problematic era of Hank Pym.
Basically, when he became Yellow Jacket, he started having some kind of a mental breakdown, and just started acting crazier and crazier and more off the wall, and started getting angry and violent.
Was there ever a reason for that?
They did eventually. I forget what the original version of it was. They did later on come up with a retcon to try to make it less of his fault.
Yeah, wasn't it something like exposure to chemicals or something?
Yeah, I think that was the original version they went with.
Okay.
But then it was it was one event in the 90s. It may have been that Avengers Forever, that we talked about last week, or it may have been the whole Tony Stark going evil thing. But they set up the whole thing where Immortus had been trying to manipulate an Avenger, and, work through their hands. So he started off with Hank Pym, but Hank Pym was fighting him, and that's what kind of led to the whole Yellow Jacket thing, was Hank Pym was trying to fight off Immortus's influence, which is, making him go bad, but he was able to fight it off. So then he moved on to Tony Stark, and he did make Tony Stark go evil, and that caused the whole thing, in like 1995, where he betrayed the Avengers, and they had to like go back in time and recruit a young teenage Tony Stark to replace him as Iron Man, which is a whole weird story.
And again, Immortus, that is a Kang.
Yep, that's a future version of Kang.
Okay, yeah.
He's even older and supposedly more wiser.
So there you go. There's a Kang and Hank Pym.
Yeah, there you go. That's something. Still not Scott Lang though.
Also, when he was Yellow Jacket, wasn't that when he's smacking around Wasp?
Yep, that's right. As part of his breakdown, yeah, he beat up his wife pretty good. Yeah. And then I think they had a whole trial for him. Like I don't even think it was like a court trial, more of like an Avengers trial, maybe. It's like we gotta get rid of this guy. But eventually he kind of came back to his senses and tried to mend fences, and I think they got back together here and there over the years.
Yeah, I never read any of that Avengers era. I like the whole.
Yeah, me neither. Not really.
Maybe we should do some of those on the show.
Yeah, I'd be down for that.
So what else do we know about this? Now, I always thought, like in the movie, they have him going in the quantum realm and shit. Like, was that ever in the comic books?
I don't believe so. I mean, I know in recent years there's been some stuff. I want to say it was more like the microverse rather than a quantum realm. Yeah. But
also in the
there definitely was a thing after Secret Invasion where I guess kind of like what they did with Wasp in the movies, where it ended with Wasp going so small that they thought she was dead, but it turns out she was in some other realm. So that may have been the quantum realm.
Okay. But it's more of a recent invention. It wasn't like something they were doing in the 60s. So, okay.
No, not so much.
Because I really don't know a lot about the Ant-Man. Now in the movies, he has his little outfit and he pushes a button and he shrinks, and like he has to be wearing the outfit to shrink, right? Because isn't it all connected?
Well, he's got those little canisters. I guess if you use the canister without it, I don't know. I thought they mentioned that in the first movie. There was some reason for that, but. Like you could probably shrink, but it might kill you, I guess, if you're not wearing the suit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would make sense. Like a compression suit or something. Because in this one, we'll get to it in a bit, but he pushes the button and like releases a gas.
Yeah. I think that was how it was in the early days, before they officially came up with the Pym particle stuff. It was more just a gas.
So would that mean anyone who was standing next to him would also shrink? I know.
It seems like it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or anything around him, like inanimate objects, you don't need to breathe it to get gas on it, right? Like, you think that would mess with it?
Yeah, I was confused by that.
So. I don't know.
All right, I had something else to say about the Ant-Man, but I'm old and I'm forgetful. and I can't remember what it is.
So yeah, well, Hank Pym was Yellow Jacket at this point, so they needed a new Ant-Man, so that's when they came up with Scott Lang.
And he wasn't crazy Yellow Jacket yet.
No.
He's a normal Yellow Jacket. Because did you read ahead? Did you read the next issue of this?
No, I didn't.
All right, well, I'll explain it when we get to the end. Because Yellow Jacket pops up in that one.
Neat.
All right, I think that's everything I wanted to say. If not, we'll come back and I'll make a note of it. But, all right, Jack, so let's look at this Marvel Premiere issue 47. The cover. Oh, I know what it was. See, I'm not that old. I remembered. Stan Lee said that they always had trouble getting Ant-Man over as a hero because the artists, he would always try to remind them, hey, you got to put him in, show him next to something for scale, like draw Ant-Man next to like a matchbox or some car keys or something, make it so people can see how little he is. Because he said it basically just turned out like you would just see Ant-Man on a panel with nothing for perspective. So he said, it's just another superhero. But he said,
that makes a lot of sense. Like he's kind of, going down like a vent in this thing where it's like if you don't know that he's in a vent, it could just be any metal wall. Like you could basically be Spider-Man. But
so he said that was the trouble they always had with conveying Ant-Man in the comics. readers just would see it. Oh, that's just another hero on that panel. But no, that's supposed to be a tiny guy. It's supposed to be a tiny guy. So I don't know.
That was the most fun parts of like the first two movies, was just him getting small and getting into weird, wacky adventures with being small.
How great was that big fight scene in the toy train set in the first movie?
Oh my God, that was amazing.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Yep. You don't need all the CGI armies.
Yeah. So all right, here we go. Let's look at this cover here, Jank. Why don't you describe the cover for the people?
Okay, so it's a pretty classic cover. I like this one a lot. We got a corner box with Ant-Man's, whole body there. He's kind of just down and doing some weird pose. It says Marvel Premiere featuring the astonishing Ant-Man. There's a little blurb that says all new. So, this is, not just a reprint or something. And then we get a shot of a desk. There's a keyboard and some news clippings and a magnifying glass showing that inside the magnifying glass, there's Ant-Man riding on an ant. And then there's an arrow saying, is this the real Ant-Man or an imposter?
But also, Jank, look at the right there. There's a gun barrel pointed at Ant-Man.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So they're going to shoot him through the magnifying glass with the gun. That's pretty cool.
Well, that'll magnify the bullets, obviously. That's how that works.
Yeah, this is a great cover because you can also in the top left you see the ants running up over the newspaper, and then he's in one. Yeah, this is a great cover.
Yeah, very, very good.
It's Bob Layton who did the cover.
Probably the best known Ant-Man cover, I would say. Not that there's a lot to compete with.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He's got a death grip on that ant's neck there with his legs.
Yeah.
I think that ant's happy about that. I don't know.
Probably not.
I feel this guy's jumping against my head.
Keeps his strength at that size, so that's not going to be fun for that ant.
Poor ant. All right, so then we, but yeah, I do like the cover a lot. So it's pretty cool. And this is 35 cents. 35 cents. Still only 35 cents.
Yep.
All right, so we open it up, the all-new Ant-Man. And we already mentioned the creators here. Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. Roger Stern is the editor. And they frame this story. So we're opening up at the end, basically.
Yep.
We're seeing Ant-Man. He's in a surgical room, like a high-tech surgical room. There's a body on a table. They're in the midst of an operation. There's a lady doctor who's yelling something. She's like, hey, stop it, all of you. If this operation is disturbed, my patient could die. But there's Ant-Man in the foreground punching some dudes.
That's right.
Yeah, we should say Ant-Man, he's got his silver helmet on, his classic silver helmet with a little antenna and the mouthpiece thing.
Yeah, it's the classic costume. They haven't updated it at all, really.
Yeah, red, blue underpants, blue gloves, blue boots, and a black design on the chest and belt. A circle. What is that? It's supposed to indicate an ant? What's the deal with that symbol?
Maybe. I guess that could be like a thorax or something. Yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea. But what do you think of this costume? It's all right. I mean, it's a good superhero outfit, right? I don't know.
It's a classic. I like the helmet. That's always a good cool thing. I like the little mouthpiece on the helmet. That's always fun.
Yeah, why use that mouthpiece there exactly?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I guess that's for the gas. Maybe you're not supposed to actually breathe in the gas. I don't know.
I'm very confused. I don't know. But anyway, he says, or my daughter will die. He says he's got to beat up these people. He's like, hey, sorry, lady, but I plan on doing more than disturb because if your patient lives, my daughter will die. So that's how you frame a story. Now people are like, oh my God, I got to see what's happening here. But they,
well, I don't know that that's actually true from what's going on here.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, really.
Yeah. He could have just waited, maybe. Yeah. Come back for this doctor the next day. His daughter is probably going to be fine.
Yeah, the key to the story is he has to get this doctor.
Mm-hmm.
This doctor is an expert in heart transplants and stuff. And his daughter has a heart ailment. Was that did they do that in the movies?
No. I know that definitely came back later in the comics. But no, they never did that in the movies at all. She was fine.
Why did he have to break into that place in the first movie? I can't even remember. He was a criminal, right? And they
yeah, it's true, but he was trying to go straight. I can't remember why he actually broke in there.
All right, never mind.
Watch that movie again.
So yeah, we see the fight going on between Ant-Man and these fellas, and one guy hits him in the back of the head with his machine gun there, and then he's going to conk him on the head with a big heavy box, because if you have a machine gun, you want to use a box as a weapon instead.
Yep.
And just then, Ant-Man presses a little button on his belt, and boom, he shrinks. So the one guy cracks the other guy in the chest with the big heavy box.
Wow. Guess a good thing he didn't use that machine gun.
And look, there's Ant-Man. He's real tiny, and he's running by with his ant buddy, and they're running by the treads on the guy's shoes. So you can see he's tiny.
Yeah.
The scale there. But then, Jank, they see other ants climbing up the walls, and what do they do?
He's like, well, a bunch of ants. Thought I recognized that costume. That turkey's the Ant-Man. And now that we know what we're up against, we can get rid of the little squirt with a big squirt. And he pulls out a hose and he starts spraying them all down.
Not his wang. He just pulled out his dick. But I also, like he says, this turkey, that made me think of something. How come there's never been a turkey man?
Ooh.
I think I just came off the $1 million idea, turkey man.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Like he's every Thanksgiving, he's like really pissed off.
I don't know what his abilities would be really, other than tasting delicious.
So they hose down the ants, and Ant-Man there, he's like, "Oh, good Lord, thank heavens I have this special helmet with a plexiglass shield that popped down from this helmet."
I guess that's why. That's what the helmet's for, the little mouthpiece. Or maybe it's a speaker. Like, cause he's so tiny?
Oh, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
That way he can still talk to people when he's itty bitty.
Yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah, someone should have done more research on this. What the fuck?
A lot of the science of Ant-Man doesn't seem to quite make sense. Like, he somehow maintains all of his strength, but he's light as air. Like, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. But, so while he's thinking about that, hey, thank God we survived that getting hosed down there, he flashes back to how this all started. Mm-hmm. Now we get the framing device. And we see Scott Lang, he's getting out of prison because he was a burglar, Yeah. And the warden says, "Hey, Scott Lang, you've been a model prisoner, but then I expected as much. Your genius with electronics sets you above the usual criminal mind. I'll never understand why you got into burglary." And then, maybe we should reenact these scenes, Like we each play a part. Like you could be Scott Lang and I'll be the warden. What do you think? So then Scott Lang says,
"Say it's easier than fixing old Motorola's all day, warden, because of course sitting behind bars is no bag of thrills either. Which is why I'm going straight."
"I believe you, Scott. That's why I set up a job interview for you at Stark International. Good luck." And
yeah,
there it is. So he leaves prison, and then as soon as he gets out of prison, he meets his daughter wearing a Spider-Man shirt.
Yeah.
Shirt. And she's like, "Hey, Daddy. Oh, here's a sad note." But he says, "Gee, have I been away that long? I'd forgotten Raquel Welch was so short. Sadly, she just passed away."
Yeah, that's ironic. Oh, man.
Well, it's kind of like ironic, like Alanis Moore said ironic. It's not really ironic. But,
yeah. Reading about this random reference from 1979, just at the time.
That's coincidental.
True.
But anyway, she says, "Oh, Daddy, tee-hee." She's laughing at the joke. And then we see, I guess that's his wife, who,
no, I guess that's his sister, apparently.
Oh, okay. That's where I was confused. What happened is, because in the movies, it's his wife and his, the new dad,
Yeah, that's a good question, because the wife is around later on. So I don't know why the wife wasn't taking care of her at this point, because I know in like the Ant-Man series in like the 2010s, she was definitely around and didn't want her daughter being a superhero anymore. So yeah, she's definitely alive. I'm not sure why she wasn't the one taking care of the kid.
Also, so I guess this is the sister's husband here, Carl.
Yeah. Who's not a big fan of the Scott Lang.
Yeah, because he's a con. He's an ex-con, Well, you don't like a criminal.
Yeah.
But clearly he's got a toupee, right?
Oh yeah.
Look at this hairpiece on this guy.
Shatner-esque.
A bird's nest on that guy's head. He's also wearing a big turtleneck sweater. This Carl. He's got glasses and a mustache. Whole thing just seems like a disguise. Like he's in a disguise. I don't like this Carl guy. But
a fake mustache.
He's not scared to just take shots at Scott Lang here too when they're talking. He takes a couple of digs at him. Yeah, sure. We love telling our friends her father was the club pro at Rikers Island. Hey, Carl, calm down.
Yeah. It's been out for 2 seconds. Give him a fucking break, Carl.
So, but Scott Lang, he gets that job at Stark Industries, you know?
Yeah, he does.
He's working with Tony Stark. Because he's in electronics.
Security. Yeah.
But then, Jank, one day, he's out with his daughter, you know? His bundle of toe-headed love is how they describe her. A weird way to describe her. But what happens? What happens, Jank?
Well, she's hitting a home run. She's like, Yahoo, it's a home run. Oh. And then, hey, Cassie, what's, and then she's basically passing out. So they take her to the doctor, and it turns out, the doctor says, something wrong is evident in these x-rays, Mr. Lang. Part of Cassie's aorta has grown inward, blocking the blood flow with a tissue-thin membrane, one that's inoperable, I'm afraid. These doctors sound pretty lazy.
Yeah. I mean, you could at least try.
They do surgery all the time.
So, Scott Lang, he asked for advances on, I think if he just went to Tony Stark and said, hey, I need help here, you know, probably Tony Stark would have came up with some heart machine to help.
Yeah, Tony Stark had heart problems because of the shrapnel in his heart. He couldn't fix this.
But yeah, I guess he never asked Tony Stark. He just asked for pay advances. And he said that still wasn't enough to cover all the medical bills. So he's like, yep, I'm going to have to go back to robbing places.
Yep.
'Cause, that'll be worth it. Just breaking into random homes. That'll work out. So,
that's the right one though.
Yeah. But this is also kind of confusing. Well, not to the confusing part yet. He's walking by a old house, but then we see him talking to the doctor, and the doctor says, hey, look at this Time magazine. There's a cover story about this lady doctor who he's an expert in heart transplants or something. And he's like, oh, wow, I got to go talk to that doctor. And, so he goes over to the institute, the Sondheim Institute where she works, but they're moving the institute. They're closing shop. They're packing up and they're moving somewhere. And he's like, hey, what's going on there, fellas? And, then he sees someone grabbing that doctor and they're going to kidnap her. So he's like, hey, I need that lady doctor there to save my daughter. And he punches the guy, bwak. That's an interesting sound effect. BWOK. Bwak. And, but then that guy was just a hired thug, you know? But then from outside of a limousine where they're taking the doctor, this big muscle-bound arm sticks out, grabs him, and just throws him across the parking lot.
Yeah.
Get out of here, buddy. That's pretty impressive.
That is one giant arm.
Yeah. And so Scott Lang, he's picking himself off the ground. He's like, oh, that hand was as big as the Bronx, but at least they had enough presence to get the limo's license number. Yeah, come on. That's never going to happen.
Now, if only my contacts in the Department of Motor Vehicles can come through. How does he have contacts in the Department of Motor Vehicles?
He's an ex-con. But contacts is, yeah, the rating in this book is not the best. Not the best.
Yeah, it's got some flaws, that's for sure.
But they needed that. So the next panel, he's already tracked him down to Cross Technological Enterprises. And he's standing outside this large factory, which polluting the environment terribly. Look at this.
Yeah, that's true.
Awful.
That's dark smoke.
But he says the only way I'm getting in there is by hiring enough muscle to force my way in, and that's going to take big bucks. So Scott, my boy, it looks like we're back to square one. Now, the next panel, it says, and that night, we see him on a wall. And I was like, wait, is he trying to break into the factory now? No, he's breaking into a house. Well, were you confused? Were you confused at all by this? I was confused by this initially.
No, I think I got it. Because I knew what was coming, that he's going to steal the Ant-Man costume from, you know.
But that's what I was thinking, is like, wait, did the Ant-Man's costumes at Cross Technologies? What's happening? So yeah, he breaks into Hank Pym's house, but it's not even like, when do they hint at that? It's like, they say at some point that Pym was on the door outside the gate or something.
Yes, yeah, he does mention that once he gets in there, and I think when he sees the costume, he's like, "Hey, I didn't make the connection before, but the name on the gate, Henry Pym, he used to be Ant-Man." Like, no
Yeah.
shit. It's not like they didn't know he was Ant-Man. Like, I know in the movie he didn't know because nobody knew his identity wasn't public and stuff like that, but he knows Henry Pym is Ant-Man, but didn't recognize the name. That's idiotic.
Yeah, I also would have, like I said, I would have made it a little clearer that he knew. I don't know, but anyway. So he steals the outfit. He goes home and he puts on the little Ant-Man costume. And he's like, all right, now I'm gonna be Ant-Man. And he tests it out, you know. Oh, he calls to some ants telepathically. He says, "Hey, ants, come here," and they all come running in through the window. You might want to check the seal on that window. I had a similar
Yeah.
problem here during the winter. My window wasn't shut properly, and remember I was hanging blankets up over my window.
Yep.
There could have been ants coming in. Thankfully, there weren't. It was the dead of winter. I fixed the window, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
What'd
yeah.
you do?
It wasn't shut properly. Like basically the window. Like it looked like it was shut. It wasn't shut at all. It's like, because the way the window is, you can slide the top down, you know, but the top, it wasn't all the way pushed up, so the window wasn't locking properly. So I was just having cold air flowing, and I also got some plastic wrap too, and I sealed that window up as well. So, I was very proud of myself. I'm no electronic whiz like this Scott Lang guy, but I know my way around a hairdryer and plastic wrap. I can seal that window right up. You know, that's what I did.
I can close a window.
Anyway, yeah, just who would have thought shutting the window properly would have fixed the problem? But anyway, so there are a bunch of ants now, and he shrinks down real little. But all the ants are like, "Oh my god, these ants are huge."
The sound effect of him shrinking is just shrink.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah. And but he's real tiny now. But he's like, "Hey, these ants are pretty cool. They're like my buddies." So he's like petting them and stuff. And I'd been cool if like the ants just all got together and ate them, and then the book's over. Yeah. So then he gets a flying ant, and apparently it's named Emma.
Yep.
Weird name for an ant. But all right. It's like, "Hey, Emma."
Naming them all himself.
Yeah. So why do you name her Emma?
Must remind him of an old girlfriend or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. He wants to have sex with Emma.
A lot of junk in the trunk.
So he shrinks down. She drops him off outside an air vent, and he climbs in the air vent, and he's bouncing around. You know, we get a shot of him being little and jumping around, and then he calls more ant buddies in to join him in the air vent, and he still always has to ride on one of them. Hey, why can't you walk like the rest of them? You know.
Well, he's going down, I think, the grate.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So he would just, kind of fall to his death. He's not Spider-Man. He can't stick the wall.
That's a good point. I was just looking up.
He does say something about, like, I am, like, with my reduced weight, I could probably float down on the rising air, only I don't know if I could control my, and then he kind of cuts off. It's like, so somehow he still has the strength of a full-sized man, but he's light, super light.
Yeah, I don't know.
Weird.
Don't ever think it. Yeah, don't ever. All right. Now, at this point, they're in a shaft, and he sees a little laser thing peek out of the vent.
Oh, yeah. This is weird.
All right. Well, go ahead, explain it to the people, and then I'll explain it to you.
So there's some kind of a heat-sensitive stun blaster. Must be set to take out escaped lab animals. And the ants are kind of stopping instead of running right through the path. Good thing you sensed it, pal. I probably wouldn't have noticed until it was too late. What? The blaster must have been set on a timer as well. Talk about close. But it's such a weird shot that you can't even tell what the hell's going on. You're so close in on Ant-Man riding this ant that there's something happening behind him, but it doesn't look like a laser firing to me.
Yeah, they show a yellow explosion thing off panel, behind a corner.
Yeah.
Popping out behind him. All right, so what happens here? You know what? We'll save it. till the end of the book, and then I'll explain it.
Okay.
Little teaser.
Mister.
Little teaser. All right. So now he gets to the vent, and he sees these two guys talking, and these guys, even though they work together, they always have to call each other by their first name.
As you do when you're wearing masks to hide your identity.
That's 2 sugars and 1 cream, right, Ernie? I'll pick them up on my way back from the operating room. Okay, Mike. I just hope the machine ain't broken like it was the last time. Mike! Because Ant-Man jumps out of the vent and punches Mike in the back and knocks him loopy.
Yep. Although he was just trying to land on him and catch a ride, but he didn't realize his own strength and like, oh shit, that knocked him out.
Hey, Mike, what gives? Yeah, Ant-Man. I like that shot of Ant-Man running. He's all jacked up, running towards the camera there.
I also like that he figured out this was the right floor because it smelled medical.
Yeah. But when this Scott Lang guy was in the stir, all he was doing was push-ups. Because he is ripped. So
that's right.
Super jacked. Now to activate the enlarging gas. That's what he's
saying. Wish I had some of that.
Yeah. And to make my big entrance. So he busts into the operating room there, and there's some more thugs with guns watching this doctor as she operates, you know. And he shrinks back down then immediately, right?
Yep.
Or no, now we cut back.
We cut back to the beginning. Yeah. He got washed down the drain.
Yeah, this is the whole framing thing. So now we're back to where we started, and he and the ants, they say, hey, you know what? Let's just climb back up the drain. That's how we can get back in the operating room. We'll go through the drains. And that's exactly what they do. And I like this shot of him turning big again, and he punches the dude. We see him growing, like in stages, and then wham, double axe handle under the jaw to this guy.
It's pretty great.
And then he immediately turns little itty bitty again, and he punches a dude in the throat. This is pretty good stuff, this Ant-Man.
I like it. Yeah. He's got to be using a lot of that gas, though.
So then you take us home here, Jake.
Because
we're right at the end here, I think. So
he takes that one guy down, and the other guy's like, hey, where'd he go? And he kind of just goes under the guy's foot, lifts him up, and knocks his ass down. And now, if you'll just come with me, Dr. Sondheim. But I have a patient. Look, doctor, I don't know exactly what's going on, but you're obviously being held against your will, and I've got a patient who's much more important than any crook you could be treating here. So, and then a big pink guy gets up off of the operating table. This would be Darren Cross, the guy who runs Cross Technological Industries or whatever it was. And he's like, yeah, I need to get a heart operation here, so this doctor ain't going anywhere. And I'll just have to destroy you.
Yeah, he's a giant pink guy.
Yep.
He's all muscular. His body's all deformed, like muscular and huge. And he's got a big old forehead like Fraser Crane. And hey, by the way, how's the Cheers watching going? You still watching the Cheers?
Yeah, still going. I'm strong into the Frasier era right now.
All right, that's good. Yeah.
Season 3.
Did you see the one yet where they go snipe hunting with Frasier?
No.
All right, that's a good one coming up. But anyway, so this Darren
guessing
Cross,
this is the guy who we saw his arm in that limo earlier.
Yes.
But I don't know why he's pink now, but he was not pink earlier.
He got much pinker during the operation. Also, this Darren Cross, he was Yellow Jacket in the first Ant-Man movie. That's who that was.
That's right.
I had no idea.
Yeah, because I knew that because this character does end up coming back later on. They thought he was dead, but he was just in suspended animation. And I believe Dr. Sondheim is back again, and she takes out Cassie's heart and puts it in this guy. And then she gives Cassie another heart.
Whoa, that is weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird.
Because I don't know if a little itty bitty girl's heart is going to be able to pump enough blood for this massive Hulk like guy.
I guess because she had been stature by this point, so she had size changing. Probably had like a size changing heart essentially. So this will work perfectly for me.
That's where this issue ends, and it says next issue, utter destruction as Ant-Man versus Man-Monster in a battle to determine the price of a heart. All right, so I went ahead to the next issue, so I got to see how this ends.
Yeah.
Not really, but I went anyway. And so Ant-Man, he fights this Darren Cross guy. Darren Cross beats him up and shit. But at the end of the book, right when they're about to fight again, and Darren Cross, it looks like he's going to reign victorious. He collapses and dies. And Ant-Man says, "Hey, I didn't hit him that hard. What the fuck happened?" And the lady says, "Here's what happened. When I was doing my heart surgery with him, I swapped out his. She has to always do these surgeries on him, I guess, because I forget what the exact story was, but he tried to do some experiment on himself, and it made his body get that way and all big and strong, but his heart would burn out basically.
Yeah,
just exhaust. Right. So every once in a while, he'd have to have these heart transplants. Yeah. So she, instead of giving him a new fresh heart, she gave him an old heart. Like one of his old hearts that was already, yeah, so so when he exerted himself in the fight with Ant-Man, he died. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's how that
makes sense.
Now,
that checks out.
So, how does Yellow Jacket come in? Well, Yellow Jacket, he was actually in Hank Pym, because he's Hank Pym. He was home when Scott Lang broke in, but he was in Yellow Jacket form. He was just sitting around his Yellow Jacket at his house, I guess. And so he followed Scott Lang. He wanted to see what he was doing with the costume, Mm-hmm. So he followed him, and he followed him into Cross Technologies. And when we saw that laser beam blow up around the corner, it actually hit Yellow Jacket.
Oh, shit.
And it knocked him out. So that's why he said he couldn't help him in his fight against Darren Cross. But he did wake up in time to see the end and to know that he's a true hero. So at the end of the next issue, he goes, you know what? You've proven yourself to be a hero. You keep that costume. You're the new Ant-Man. Have fun, buddy. And he just leaves. That seems incredibly irresponsible.
It really does.
That's like, man.
I mean, I don't even know that he's proven himself to be a true hero. He broke into a private company just to, save his own daughter, basically. That's not really showing that you're a hero of the people.
It's kind of like if your 12-year-old kid, one day he takes a car for a joyride or around the block, Then you say, you know what, you did such a good job. You're now a licensed driver. That car is yours. Have fun. No, there should be training. There should be some licensing involved. There needs to be
superhero If you want to be a hero, I'll train you or something for a while and see if this works out. Not just, all right, figure it out.
We'll send you down to NXT or developmental territory. You can train down there. But no, he says, you know what? You're now Ant-Man. See you later, buddy. And I guess, I don't know, he's supposed to just have a lifetime supply of Pym particles as well. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting, I don't know how that works.
So, he's now Ant-Man. Oh, there it is. Marvel premiere.
What an origin. But yeah, again, he could have just waited. Like, obviously this doctor is working on Darren Cross all the time, apparently. So
seemed that way.
It's not like he lets her go afterwards. So I think they could have waited a day, and then she could have operated on Cassie as well. So
yeah, I was kind of confused by it because she said she replaced his heart with the old heart or something. But then, so it made me think like she was doing these surgeries all the time. But I guess the way it's set up is this was the first time she operated on because they had to kidnap her and shut down her clinic.
Different doctors each time, maybe.
Maybe because I was just wondering where she got the old heart, like because then she didn't do anything in the surgery, or I don't know. The Wikipedia is a little weird, but anyway, so that's what happens. Darren Cross, like you said, they do bring him back later on. I did read that, and
yep, that's a pretty good story. I liked it.
So there it is. Now, do you prefer your Hank Pym or your Scott Lang as Ant-Man?
Or Eric O'Grady. We can't forget Eric O'Grady.
I don't know who that is. Ant-Man. I have no idea.
He sucks. I think he was like a SHIELD agent who basically like they had the Ant-Man costume and, SHIELD lockup or whatever, and he just kind of like stole it. And was pretty much just like, he was kind of an anti-hero almost, but then really just turned full villain at a certain point, and
really
has remained kind of the Black Ant, I believe is what he's called now.
Oh, because he's got to be black. Oh, all right. He's a villain.
Although he's actually a white guy. Yeah.
always got to make the evil guys black.
But basically, I think he went around, kind of spying on ladies in the shower and shit like that. So he was not a very good guy as far as ant people go.
That's pretty good. He's just a perv.
Yeah.
Ant-Man powers.
That's basically what he was doing with the shrinking abilities. But yeah, I think I would take Scott Lang. Maybe it's just the Paul Rudd of it, and maybe it's also that I've read more of his storylines. Whereas Hank Pym just always, obviously the spousal abuse isn't good. Yeah. The fact that he invented Ultron, not great. A lot of baggage with that guy.
Yeah, Hank Pym was always kind of a jerk. Paul Rudd, we talked about Chris Hemsworth revitalizing Thor. Paul Rudd really made Ant-Man something too,
Yeah, it really did. That could have been such a terrible movie in other people's hands, but he's just so likable. And that's kind of what I like about Scott Lang, I think, is he's kind of a lovable loser. Like that kind of more recent Ant-Man series that Nick Spencer did was pretty fun. Like he was just kind of, he was recently back from the dead, after he died during Avengers Disassembled, and then Cassie kind of saved him in this, Young Avengers storyline. And so he was back from the dead and like looking for something to do. Like Tony Stark didn't want to hire him. And so he just kind of started his own security business down in like Miami, I think. And he ended up working with like the Grizzly and, the Captain America villain, the Machine Smith, was pretty much just a robot by this point. And like they were kind of trying to reform and trying to start their own security company. And he was just kind of like a down on his luck guy trying to get by. And it was just kind of fun. I liked it. So that's kind of what I like about it.
I think that's the way Ant-Man would work best, is this fun and, again, small scale stuff, right?
Yeah. There was like a fun moment I remember where, he didn't really have a place to live. So he bought like a toy of like a Stark apartment and like he was using the couch in that place. And like they were watching like TV on his phone. They put the phone in the room for like because it was
a giant screen TV. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. It's like having your own movie theater.
Hank Pym, he said he always seems like a jerk, but this Scott Lang in this specific issue, I didn't really care for Scott Lang too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. I don't know what he was. It was kind of like he wasn't fun like Paul Rudd. He wasn't but he's kind of like a tough guy, but not a tough guy. I don't know. He
also, as we mentioned, he didn't really go about it very well. He could have talked to Tony Stark instead of, I'm immediately back to thieving, I guess.
Yeah. And again, him being all jacked up was also weird to me. But anyway.
Yeah. And he seemed to be really counting on this. He's like, I'm going to have to hire a bunch of muscle to get in here. He was really counting on Hank Pym just having shitloads of cash lying about.
Yeah, and again, he didn't even make the connection that Hank Pym was Ant-Man or anything. Yeah. So he just assumed the house, a lot of rich people here. So yeah, he could have left there with like a toaster and a TV set. That could have been all he had. Like, all right, whatever. So I did like, the writing wasn't so good. A lot of awkward dialogue and exposition and stuff. The framing device was pretty good. That always works. The old framing device.
Sure, to kind of come into the action parts and then go back to tell.
So I like that structure, but the actual writing though, the dialogue and stuff, not so good. The art, I liked the art a lot. I thought that was good. The John Byrne, Bob Layton pairing was nice. So I don't know. I guess it was interesting seeing the origins of Ant-Man. I like some of the action scenes, but I'll go 6 out of 10. Maybe 6 out of 10.
Yeah. I think it's fair. I might go 7.
That's a nice cover.
I think it is a cool origin story. It's kind of unique. I like it.
You know what? 7's all
right. Not too many heroes who get their powers by just stealing them from a superhero. And then that superhero letting them keep it. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I just wish it wasn't so clunky. Like the theft into the house and everything. But
even the stuff with Darren Cross and the hearts and stuff, it's unique. It's cool setup for villainy. I like it.
And it is a great cover, so yeah, 2 sevens. Sevens and yeah, we'll go with two
Yeah.
sevens. All right, so Jank, that's Scott Lang's origin. Now next week we're going to be doing MODOK's origin, or what are we doing next week?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to tie into to MODOK or anything like that, but maybe someday. I was gonna go with a something that is up your alley, because I know you like two things you enjoy are scantily clad ladies and monkeys.
Yes, this is gonna be awesome.
So I'm gonna go with 1972's Shanna the She-Devil, number 4, where she encounters the mutant Mandrill.
Yeah, he's basically a baboon. Yeah, he's a baboon, right? I had Shanna on my list as well of books to do coming up, so not to be confused with Sheena, Tanya Roberts.
Yeah, they're not too dissimilar, but a lot of similarities between those two characters, but yeah.
So issue 4 of Shauna from 1970. I'm excited about this. Good job.
Should be fun.
All right, so until next week, don't get any jank on you.